employment attorney that specializes in a lot of these cases that we're seeing between employees and employers. And Darin, a lot of discussion about how businesses are going to survive, considering we are still shut down. What are you seeing on the ground?
Yeah, businesses are just trying to stay alive and take advantage of some of the federal stimulus money that is rolling in. The biggest program by far has been the Paycheck protection program. A number of businesses in Hawaii have gotten some money from that program. And in the first round, Hawaii got a little over $2 billion of federal money for that.
And we see this next round, but there's still already some questions about whether a lot of them are eligible, whether they can actually take advantage. What are you advising your clients?
Yeah, for those who are able to get the PPP loans, I mean, the basic premise of it is to keep workers paid and employed. And so the loan is 100% forgiven if you use it for those purposes, which is 75% for payroll costs, and then the other 25% or less for things like rent and utilities and those kinds of fixed expenses that are, hampering our businesses right now.
Mm-hmm. Some of the business I've spoken to that have actually gotten the PPP loan have already tried to figure out the details of their, payroll, trying to get people back, but they're running into a lot of these challenges. What kind of advice should we give them in terms of, trying to balance the need between getting income to cover what they're losing every day from being shut down? A lot of their workers can't even get out of the house because of the stay-at-home order.
Yeah, and so the PPP or Paycheck Protection Program, it does contemplate that for businesses, even if they are shut down or having workers underutilized, you can still take advantage of the full forgiveness of the loan amount. So businesses are finding creative ways to use their employees, whether it's for training or whether it's for community service types of projects that are marketing and advertising for that business, putting employees back on payroll and using that money 75% for it allows the business to get 100% full forgiveness.
Mm-hmm. I know you've been conducting a lot of these webinars to try to educate the public, especially as the discussion of reopening the economy becomes more frequent. Are we ready to reopen, though?
Well, I think that is going to be up to our government leaders, but certainly we're trying to help the discussion and help Hawaii employers navigate through this. I think the next phase for us is going to be a discussion about responsibly reopening to balance the health concerns with the crushing impact that businesses are facing. So, in addition to the webinars we're doing on federal stimulus like PPP, I think we're going to do some transition into having a good discussion about how do we responsibly reopen Hawaii.
In your opinion, what would that entail? What do you think needs to be kind of the framework?
Yeah, I think I'm going to defer to the experts on it, but as a general framework, I think we want to make sure that the levels of disease are low and manageable, but we have to find a way to eventually reopen our borders because if we can't do that, there's just a huge number of businesses that rely on people coming from outside the state into the state for income. And we're going to have to find a way to do that responsibly.
Yeah, I think the big discussion also is this question between what's essential and non-essential, and also trying to figure out how to incorporate social distancing practices within these businesses, because a lot of them may not be conducive to that. And mask wearing and all of these new normal things that we're doing now. What do you think in terms of trying to incorporate these new business practices into companies?
I think that those are going to become the norm because you can still conduct business with a mask or with some forms of social distancing. It's going to have a negative impact on certain businesses like restaurants and retail. But in terms of the essential businesses aspect, I think that's actually going to transition to more of a discussion of, how much negative health impact will happen by opening a certain business versus the positive impact on the economy for doing it. So I think we're going to transition to those kinds of risk reward analysis.
Yeah, because we're still seeing the debate go on. It was like florists and then fabric stores and then car dealerships and, massage parlors. We're getting these, emails to us at the newsroom that these are physical therapy type benefits. Again, it just seems like everyone's deciding on the fly. What's your analysis of it all?
Well, I think you saw the mayor earlier this week focus on businesses that have less person-to-person contact, so one-to-one contact or even less than that. And that makes sense because if the business can run with minimal person-to-person contact, then there's a benefit to the economy, there's a benefit to the business of being able to open, and the public health risks are far less than, say, if you're putting 1,000 people together in a small room. So
yeah. Could we see more lawsuits come out if the economy doesn't open fast enough and a lot of these businesses just have to shutter?
Well, it's hard to sue a business if it's not open. So
or against the state. I don't know. That also, I don't know. Or employers suing their companies for certain things. I don't know. What kinds of fallout can we see in the legal sector?
Yeah, I'm not sure so far. We haven't, at least from what I've seen, I haven't seen that much activity over the past couple months in terms of wrongful termination lawsuits or other things of that sort. I think everyone is either focused on the health aspects and just trying to stay healthy and not contract disease, or they're focused entirely on saving the business and keeping their employees employed and just trying to stay alive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the reason why I asked too is because we've gotten a few letters into the newsroom about businesses who are saying that because of these shutdowns, they are losing business, obviously, and it's something that they can't control, and they're trying to find some ways to sue the state. But I don't know if there's any basis to that.
I'm not aware of that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Just wanted to ask. Okay, so in general, I guess, what's the biggest takeaway? As you're someone who works in this field and working with businesses, working with employees. What should we be mindful of?
I think the biggest takeaway is to control what we can control. On the PPP or Paycheck Protection Program, we've made a real strong effort to get as much money into the state as possible. In the first round, we did better than other states in terms of getting a higher share of that money. And then it's going to be transitioning to getting the economy going again in a responsible way, and focusing on that discussion between public health officials and businesses so that there can be a real step forward to responsibly open back up.
Mm-hmm. And as you mentioned, it is kind of a way to, it's opened our eyes to seeing the diversification of our economy, the need for that. Are you hearing some of that discussion of, like you mentioned, getting away less dependent on tourism?
Yeah, to an extent, but I think the biggest thing that we've seen is the creativity and leadership that's kind of come out of this crisis. It's really required businesses and leaders to think outside the box, whether it's to reconfigure their businesses in ways that further the business or help the community. And I think you see it in the community efforts, from everything from starting up ways to feed kupuna to ways to help businesses to all kinds of community service efforts. So that, I think, has been the most encouraging thing, is to see the ingenuity and creativity of Hawaii.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that front. Getting a lot of reports of great stuff that people are doing, coming up with. So appreciate your time today, Darin. It's good to see you, and thank you for the work you're doing for our community as well.
Thank you so much.
Darin Leong there is an employment attorney here in Hawaii, and don't go away. Good Morning Hawaii. We'll be right back. Thank you, Darin. I appreciate your time today.